All right, ladies and gentlemen, friendly reminder. Tomorrow you do have a vocab quiz 1 through 10 tomorrow, so please make sure you are prepared. Tomorrow we are passing back papers, and Delaney, I believe, pointed out that there's obscene up there with my paper collection. So it absolutely has to be done, and hopefully we'll get to some content tomorrow because this content is like super interesting. So today we are starting we are done with World War I. We are now in between the wars. So at the top of your notes, you should have week 25, of course. Monday, fun fact, you do have a time primary because we missed them last week. Are you okay? Okay. All right, so first notes we're taking is called Lost Generation, ladies and gentlemen. There's no heading because it's just big names you need to know. So Lost Generation, you should have Gertrude Stein next to it. I don't need you to memorize it, but it's just just be aware. Lost Generation refers to anyone who lived through or fought in World War I. Anyone who lived through or fought in World War I. So you didn't have to be a soldier in the war. You could just simply have been someone who lived through it while in Kentucky, whatever. Okay? When we talk about Lost Generation, the reason why they're called Lost Generation is because the war changed, the world changed dramatically, pre-war to post-war. Write that down. The world changed dramatically from pre-war to post-war. That forever changed culture, politics, religion. Okay? So, every single person in the world was touched by World War I and this whole idea of the lost generation. Think about it. You watched 8.5 million young men die in these trenches. Do you think that's going to have an effect on you? Okay? After the war, people change everything. Okay? Women and men both decide to not get married right away and start delaying. So instead of getting married at 17, 18 like they used to, they're now not getting married until they're 24, which, doesn't sound like that. It's still, today people are waiting until 28 to get married. But back then, 24 was you were supposed to have 2 kids or 6 kids at that point and stuff like that. They're waiting longer. Why? Because they want to live life. They want to experience things. Before the war, everyone was hurry up, graduate high school, get married, get a job, have kids all by the time you're 19. Ugh. Right? So, all of a sudden now, people are living for themselves. You're going to want to write that down. People are starting to live for themselves. Okay? People want to experience the world because they know how fragile life is. Okay? It changes everything. Women are now pulling up the hems of their skirts to above their knee. How scandalous. Okay? Men and women are having more premarital sex than ever before. Before World War I, very few people are having premarital sex. After World War I, it became incredibly much more common. Now, does that have an impact on 2020? Yes, absolutely. Women have higher hems. More people are engaging in premarital sex. The whole idea of partying, drinking, all of that stuff is all new ideas that come around after this period. Why? Because people understand how delicate life is because of watching so many people's lives die for 90 feet. Think of how impact you would be watching this massive loss of life. So people are you know what? Screw you and what you want. I'm going to do what I want. And that's what the lost generation is called. You also need to know the term disillusionment. Okay? Disillusionment. It's up there. Disillusionment is the belief that the traditional ways of life have failed. So they will be rejected. Well, think about it. Ladies and gentlemen, you're an 18-year-old man. You get sent to France to fight in the trenches. You watch 8.5 million people die in 90 feet for nothing. For nothing. Do you think you're going to challenge the belief in God? Yeah. You see all those people dying, all these children starving to death, men, women, children getting killed in this war senselessly, right? We had 22 million people die during 4 years. Okay, and tied to this war, do you think that would challenge your beliefs in God? Absolutely. So people for the first time are really challenging God's authority. Is there a God? So this whole atheism starts really picking up. People start challenging whether governments should even exist. How can governments allow this to occur? Should they even exist? So we start having these massive questions. Should governments exist? Why are we following these orders? Why are we fighting for what a country stands for? These big picture questions are now starting to be challenged. You know, should I lay my life down on behalf of my country? Is that something worthwhile? So these big questions we ask ourselves in the 21st century, like what's the meaning of life? What's the meaning of our service? Why are we here? Start really getting questions at this point just because of the mass death counts. And like, what is life? What is the purpose? Is it to be happy or to be of service? Those are the types of things that are coming out, which is pretty crazy. Spigler, you do need to know the decline of the West. Hey, it's a test question. You do need to know his name. He is going to come up. He writes a book called The Decline of the West. He says that World War I will cause the collapse. World War I will cause the collapse of Europe and the power it held. That was a hard one. Okay, so he thinks it will never recover. Now, is he right? No, it recovers. However, does it take a massive blow?
Yes.
Absolutely. Imagine how powerful Europe would have been if we didn't have World War I. So it does humble Europe significantly. So he is wrong. You should probably note that. He is wrong. It will recover. However, he does say because of a moral decay is going to cause World War I, which you could argue. Okay, the fact that the Europeans really forgotten their Enlightenment beliefs and then just wanted to make as much money as possible off of industrialization, you could argue it's a strong moral component to it. Okay. All right, skip a space, center it. New technology. Okay, your first one is Albert Einstein. Okay, you need to know that he is physics and he comes up with the theory of relativity. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are not waiting for Samantha Bennett to explain the theory of relativity to you, because that is just not going to happen today because my brain is too small. And I'm not smart enough to do it. And I don't get it. Any of you physics people? No one? Yeah, you like it? It's cool. Like, it's really cool. Like, if when someone can actually explain it to you and, like, you can kind of understand it from my little small brain, it is very, very cool. But I have a small brain. And I can't think like that. And it just doesn't work like that. Okay? So then you have Heisenberg. Heisenberg is the uncertainty principle. Okay? Don't ask me what it is. Don't ask me. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I'm not even going to pretend. I'm so sorry. It was a long siren. There was a siren that went by my house this morning at 6:08. And my dog started howling like a maniac. By the way, I live in a condo. I have neighbors on on the other side of my walls. I bet they really appreciate the wake up. Sigmund Freud! I can't tell you anything you want to know about Freud because I teach Freud all day, every day in AP Psych, especially third quarter. Sigmund Freud, you need to know he's all about your subconscious mind. Every single person in this room has said something and you're like, oh my God, I totally didn't mean to say that. I have no idea why I said that. Yes? Something that falls out of your mouth and you're like, holy shit, what did I just say? That's your subconscious mind according to Freud acting or doing a Freudian slip. When you say something you didn't mean to say, yes, Freudian because it's after Freud. He's also all about interpretation of dreams. He's the first person to make dreams significant. You're a dream person, aren't you, Maggie? Oh my God. I knew it. I think they're...
Not dream.
I do dream, but I think that's literally random bursts of electrical energy in specific parts of my brain that are being repaired overnight. So there's 3 different theories of what dreams are, and that happens to be one of them. Freud's the other. I think they have deep meaning. Ugh. Huh? No. The third one is that it's just simple brain activity. All right, and then you have, you need to know that he's all about repression of sexual desires. Sigmund Freud is a sex addict. Before we had a term for sex addict in the AP Psych next year, you will learn all about it, like the psychosexual stages, which is all about children's development into sexual beings. So you want to know something creepy to talk about? Children going through sexual development. That's very creepy. It starts in infancy, by the way. But you'll learn all about it next year. Not from me, though. What?
You know about the Oedipus complex, right?
Yeah. Do you all want to have sex with your opposite sex parent? The ladies in the room want to have sex with their dads. All the men in the room want to have sex with their moms. And Freud was like, you should do that. That's a learning opportunity. Then his popularity plummeted, and then, don't do that. But that's Freud. Don't worry, that's next year. You spent a lot of time talking about him. All right, he did have huge impacts on the world, though. He got people to talk about sex, all of these different types of things, and got people to address psychological issues that happened in their past. You know how we have all of her childhood traumas present themselves later. Freud is the guy who does start that. He also does have some other really good theories. He just gets caught up in the sex stuff, and then things go askew. Then you have photography, becomes incredibly popular. Photography becomes incredibly popular, which means artists can start being abstract. Now, who can explain to me why photography becoming popular means artists can be abstract? How do those two things coincide? Oh my God, if you're in AP Art History, Ren is going to be so mad at you. Delaney.
Or the goal of art was to be realistic and capture images.
There you go. So now that we have cameras that can do it in a split second, guess what we don't need? Realistic art, because the camera is going to be more realistic than you could be, right? Takes a still image. So now all of a sudden artists have way more opportunity to start including more ideas and thoughts into things. So all of a sudden we start having a lot more abstract art. It's not focusing on realism, but in fact surrealism and all that stuff. You need to know Pablo Picasso is your perfect example. You have not gotten to him in Ren yet, but he has shown you the women. Has he shown you a famous painting with the 4 prostitutes? They have edges. Are you in AP Art History?
I'm in regular art. Actually,
What?
I'm in art class, so it's Picasso and Dali.
Well, yeah, that's because they're super trendy. Oh, you do? Look at you, aren't you? Elizabeth's right on topic today. All right. Then you have skyscrapers, or the next other big piece of technology. Now, prior to skyscrapers, which are built with glass and steel, which you do need to know, glass and steel is what skyscrapers are made from. Beforehand, they were built with iron, cement, or bricks. With that being said, if you look at old cities, the buildings typically only went up 4 or 5 stories because the weight of the brick and the iron would be too much. After 5 stories, the building would collapse. So with the advent of steel and glass, all of a sudden now we can start going 40 stories. Like my husband works in a building that's 60 stories tall in downtown. It's huge. You get kind of your ears pop on the way up in the elevator. It's strange. Oh, I love looking out the windows being that high.
I went to my uncle's workplace. He worked
I
at
love it.
skyscraper the 80th floor. And I went out and put my when I was little, I put my hands out there. And I looked down and I thought I was about to fall.
Yeah. Well, apparently the tallest building in Dubai, they get clouds inside the building.
That's wrong.
That's cool. I didn't know that. I learned that today, and I Googled it, and it's facts. All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to write Great Depression for your heading. Now, look. Stop. Look at me. Okay. Apparently, I'm going to be a real teacher today. Someone said that to me. Oh, you're really going to teach today? That's what they said to me, Bella. And I was like, well, what the hell do I do every other damn day? Turds. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I wrote on my board today. I guess that makes me a real teacher. And then I stand here with a stick. Real teaching, I guess. I'm not really sure. So, please listen. I have the notes all here. Okay? I'm going to let you write them down. But I don't want you to write them all down and ignore me and then be zone out after. Can we write them together? Hello? Okay. So, this is a lot. The Great Depression is a huge deal because the Great Depression is going to cause everything else. And of course, what causes the Great Depression? World War I, Treaty of Versailles specifically. So, we're going to start here under Great Depression. Germany has to pay reparations to the Allies, France, England, U.S. You can take a photo of it, especially my front row people, if it's just too much. Okay, so Germany has to pay reparations to the Allies, France, England, U.S., $33 billion. Who can tell me what is a reparation? What is a reparation? Haley?
It's when they have to pay money for all the damages caused.
Yeah, for sure. Now, in 2020, we're having a conversation now about paying reparations to former slaves. Okay? So anyone who is related to an ancestral slave here in the United States, should they get reparations? We're one of the very few countries in the world who never paid reparations to former slaves. Now, because we never paid reparations to former slaves, when we freed them, we gave them no economic opportunities, and then we implemented, more racist legislation to keep them behind. So because of that, there is a huge wealth gap between whites and blacks here in the United States. So the idea of giving out reparations, acknowledging our dark history of racial divide and racial discrimination, would help alleviate some of the socioeconomic pressures between whites and blacks here in the United States, and to simply acknowledge the fact that we had slavery, because after slavery ended, we were like, oh, problem fixed. Did that fix the problem? No, look at us in 2020. How are we doing? Not so great. So it is an idea out there. It's a way for people to say, I'm sorry. United States is one of the few countries that haven't done it with former slaves. Reparation is being done to Germany. Germany's paying reparations to say, I'm sorry, for what? Causing the war. Now, who can tell me what part of the Treaty of Versailles is reparations a part of? Who can raise their hand and tell me what part is a specific part? Jack?
14 points.
Yes, but what is it? It's a clause. Haley? War Guilt Clause. Under the War Guilt Clause, Germany took responsibility for the war and had to pay reparations to England, France, and the United States. Okay? So this is all based on the Treaty of Versailles. So, now, ladies and gentlemen, think logically. Do you think Germany had $33 billion sitting around? No. Why not, Maggie? You're completely right. Why not?
Because they used all their money in war.
They used all their money in the war. So, how are they going to pay these reparations off, Maggie? You don't have money, what do you get? You get a loan. So, they're going to look at England. Does England have any money to give them? No. Why? Yeah, they just used all of their money, and they have to rebuild their country, correct? England is a hot mess. They have just been bombed. They've had a ton of issues. They don't have the money. France, how's France looking? They had the trenches going through most of their country. They're not looking good either. So England, France cannot give them loans, but who can? Why can the United States give them money? Why can we do loans? Katarina?
They joined at the very end of the war.
We joined at the very end of the war, so our involvement was very minimum. Second thing is, how is our infrastructure looking? Are we rebuilding or are we perfectly fine? We are perfectly fine. So step number 2 is the United States gives loans to Germany to pay back England, France, and U.S. So that means we're handing Germany $100, and then Germany is giving us $33 of it back. Who's making money here?
U.S.
U.S. Because we give them $100 and immediately we get $33 back. I'm just breaking $100. Okay? And we're also charging them interest. What is interest? You can raise your hand and tell me what interest is. What is interest,
It's
JC?
kind of like a specific percentage at the end that they have to pay as well.
Yeah, so if we charge him $100, so I go to Graham, like, Graham, man, I need $100. And he's like, of course, Bennett. I got you. In a month, okay, you owe me $120 instead of $100. Okay, because he wants to make some money. He's no fool. He's no idiot. He's not out here for charity. He's trying to hustle hard. Okay, so how much money is he making off my $100? 20 $20. Same thing we're doing in Germany. So immediately the United States gives them $100, we immediately get $33 back because we're part of the reparations. So we're getting immediate money back, and we're charging them interest. How are we doing?
Good.
Hell yeah, we're doing great. So the U.S. is getting interest and payments from Germany. So we're already making money off this. Things are going great for us. However, Germany is also paying England and France with this money. So we just took $100, they're getting 33, and France is getting 33. Well, the thing is, England and France need to rebuild their countries. Their countries were destroyed. Do you think they have steel plants ready to go in England? France? Who happens to have steel plants ready to go?
The U.S.
The United States. So guess where they're spending their $33? So England and France are taking their money they're getting from Germany and turning around and spending it in the United States. So who's that benefiting? So that $100 that we gave Germany, which then Germany divided amongst the three of us, pretty much all of it is going to who? And we're getting interest off of it. So who is just riding high off this? The United States. So you need to know that England and France use that money to purchase materials for rebuilding and food, specifically wheat, but we'll get to that. For their people. All or most of the money goes to the U.S. economy because they need the supplies, and who is the only one producing them? The United States, because our infrastructure is intact. Okay? This is what creates the Roaring Twenties. Okay? You've heard of Gatsby, yes? Okay? Chicago, have you ever seen that play? Okay? Everyone's living their best life, all of this stuff. That's in the Roaring Twenties. Why? Because there's so much money coming into the United States. Because we're one of the few, we're the only industrial power in the world that is still high producing right after the war. What do you got, Kevin?
So Germany has to pay interest, and they already don't have.
Well, yeah, because if I'm giving you a loan, girl,
Yeah, I
I'm not doing
understand that,
charity.
but like, how are they making money? Because they also had to give away like their bread.
They're not
baskets.
making any money.
So
They are literally just
how do they
struggling.
pay interest?
They keep getting charged it, and they pay when they can. Yeah, and sometimes they they have some things going on. They just don't have a ton going on. Don't worry, it's all gonna fall apart, which is why it's called the Great Depression, not how America recovered to conquer the world. Okay, so Germany's economy, going right into what Katarina was just asking, Germany's economy is completely dependent on the United States. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Oh, it's a terrible thing. So if Germany didn't get those loans, how would Germany be paying all the reparations? It wouldn't be. There is no opportunity. So they're completely dependent on it. So eventually, we can all agree, and we can all see this coming, eventually the German economy is going to crash, yes? It's completely propped up by the United States. It's not, there is no way they can stabilize it. So eventually it's just going to crash. With one small thing is going to trigger a larger reaction because there is no stability there, because it's all dependent on loans. So once it's propped up, it will collapse. The United States sees that their economy is complete trash. What are we going to do? We're going to stop giving them loans because we know we're not going to get paid. They can't pay us interest. They can't pay for these loans. So we stop giving them loans once their economy tanks. Well, guess who is dependent on Germany?
British.
England and France are completely dependent on Germany. So once the reparation payments stop coming in from Germany, remember, Germany is getting money from the United States and taking that money and giving it right to England and France. So once England and France stop getting money from Germany, their economy collapses too. So then, the United States, this is like 1927, by the way, that this finally really starts occurring. 25, we start seeing cracks. 27 is when France and England fall. You don't need to know that. You do have some dates coming up, but we're just talking big picture here. Okay, so once the reparation payments stop arriving, England and France's economies collapse too because they're dependent on these reparations. They're trying to rebuild their country, trying to restabilize their economy. And because of these lack of payments, everything collapses. Okay, so England and France and Germany, the three largest countries in Europe, most powerful countries in Europe, economies have collapsed. Now, we're not even talking about Belgium. We're not talking about Finland, Sweden. How do you think they're doing? They're doing even worse. Actually, Germany's the worst. I think we also have Finland because they have all this punishment. But everyone's doing terrible. So, how does it affect the United States economy? The United States economy will eventually collapse in 1929. So we're able to keep our head afloat for about 2 years once the rest of Europe collapses. Why? Because we had so much money in our economy right before it crashed. Quite unlike Germany, definitely unlike England and France and all that stuff. So our economy will eventually tank in 1929 with the stock market crash. Okay? It occurs because businesses got too big and too dependent on foreign money, which we're going to talk about here in a second when we talk about the agricultural revolution, agricultural production, economic collapse. Yes?
But like, how did that happen? What happened exactly with the stock market crash?
We're actually going to get there. I have it right over there. Economic collapse, October 24th, 1929. I'm getting there. So I'm doing big picture, so you understand the circumstances of things. There's many, many factors that led to the Great Depression. However, immediately right now, after I just did this for 4 or 5 minutes, what is the immediate cause of the Great Depression?
World War II.
Well, yes, but what is the actual cause of the Great Depression?
Oh, inflation.
There is one word you need to have. Dylan. That's 3 words, man. Jack.
Inflation.
Elizabeth. Reparations. Ladies and gentlemen, if Germany didn't have to pay $33 billion, would they have taken out loans? If they didn't take out loans, would England and France have become dependent on Germany's money? No, they would have had to do it independently. So the immediate cause of the Great Depression is reparations. Okay, now are there tons of other conflicts that are going to go into this? Is there other things that are going to have a huge effect? Absolutely. But it's it's the Treaty of Versailles, the War Guild Clause, specifically reparations, that are going to cause the Great Depression. Because it's going to cause a effect. So, you need to know by the time the U.S. economy collapses, the entire world's economy is in a major downturn. However, the only country that is doing okay is Japan. And we're going to talk about this in great detail, and Japan is going to do okay. The reason why Japan does okay is because they're isolated. They're the only industrialized country in Asia, which means they have a lot more padding to it, which means they're not dependent on anyone else. And if you're not dependent on anyone else, if everyone else goes down, you kind of stay afloat. Now, are they booming? No. However, are they doing significantly better than everyone else? Yes. That is why in World War I, is Japan a big deal? No. They come in at the end and they're like, oh, we want the colonies. Fine. Okay? In World War II, are they a big deal? Oh, hell yeah. The reason is because when everyone else is dealing with the Great Depression, their economy is still slowly building. Everyone else is going down, they're building, and that is why in World War II, they're such a huge force, both economically, politically, and militarily. Okay? All right. So underneath Great Depression, you're going to write single export countries. Isn't that interesting, at least? To kind of see the trigger effect of how just one thing can cause a huge ripple effect. Okay? I think it's pretty cool. Alright, so single export countries are going to be hit the hardest by the Great Depression. And you're going to write parentheses colonies. Okay? Colonies are going to be single export countries. So, ladies and gentlemen, did the colonies want to be colonized by European powers?
No.
No. So, they immediately obviously didn't want to be colonized before, but economically were they doing well pre-World War I? Now, post-World War I, the whole world is in a depression and they're hit the hardest. So not only do they not want to be conquered, they also are in worse condition than the actual imperial powers. So this is going to cause even more of a desire to have independence. You need to write that down. It will cause even more conflict for independence. And that is a very big deal. So, all of these colonies are going to start rebelling. Is it going to work? No, it doesn't start working until after World War II. So we start seeing independence. But because of the Great Depression, we're going to see a lot more. All right, your next heading is agricultural production. It's all under the Great Depression. I mean, all of this is starting right here. Okay, so I also have the notes on the board. I am aware you can just write it down and just tune me out. Please don't. Okay. So, agricultural production. Overproduction of wheat in the United States during the 1920s. The United States are going to grow. Overproduction of wheat. Why is the United States growing wheat? Why? It makes logical sense. Why are we growing wheat? Pearson. JP?
Maybe to feed the soldiers before.
No. Well, there is post-World War I. What do you got? No? Not anymore. Katarina.
Oh, because it has it's kind of fattening.
Okay, hi. America is always growing wheat, but now all of a sudden we're overgrowing wheat. So people who used to grow like watermelons and tomatoes are now growing wheat. Why? It makes logical sense. John.
Feed Germany.
To feed Germany, England, and France. Feed Europe. Why do we need to feed Europe? Come on, connect the dots for me. They're starving. Why? No, well, they better have money because we aren't just sending food over there for fun, okay? Yes, their land is ruined from the war. So immediately after World War I, I almost said World War IV. Oh my God. Okay, so immediately after World War I, let's talk about France. France had 2,500 miles of essentially trenches going through their land. Do you think it's easy to take a trench and then convert it into nice, fertile farmland? No, because keep in mind, most of the men in the country are dead. Okay, millions of French young boys are dead. So it takes a long time to convert that land. They have to fill in the trenches. They got to get the bullets out of the ground. They have to take the shrapnel out of the ground. Some places have too many bodies in the ground that they can't grow things yet until the bodies decompose more. That is how much death is happening. So people in England, in Europe, in France, they haven't grown anything for 4 years during wartime. So immediately after the war, what aren't they doing still? Growing food. And that takes years to get back to full production. So who is willing to fill that production need? The United States is willing to fill it because why? Our infrastructure is completely intact. We only lost, and I say we only, still 500,000. We only lose about a little less than 500,000 people. About 400-something thousand Americans died in World War I. That's a lot of people. And like, if that was one of your family members, then that means a big difference. But in England, they lost almost like 4 million. Okay, so do we see the difference between the two? So with that being said, American farmers, so because U.S. has the ability and resources to grow, Europe has none, so the price of wheat goes up. Because we're Americans, we love capitalism, and if we can drag the price up, we are. Okay, so American farmers who used to grow like watermelons and tomatoes are now all of a sudden going to wheat. Why? For money, hell yeah. You know you can grow 10 pounds of watermelon and make $100, or you can grow 10 pounds of wheat and make $300. What are you going to grow? Wheat. So all of a sudden we have all of these farmers converting from other foods to wheat to make a quick profit. However, in 1925, the price of wheat plummets. Why? It makes logical sense. Sam? No. Jack?
Germany collapsed.
No. Germany doesn't collapse until 1927. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. Why was there such a high demand for wheat in the first place? Arlie?
Because Europe is like they need to feed Europe.
There you go. So why in 1925 does the American price of wheat plummet?
Because they're like inflating the war.
Yes, guys, the war ends in 1918. It's 1925. What did they finally started doing? Yeah, they're farming. Hello, yes. What do you think priority one was when all of these people went back to their homes? Food. Because they have been hungry for 4 years. They're like, damn it, we got to get food on the damn table. And that's exactly what they do. So it takes some time. By 1925, England and France and Germany and all these other European countries are now growing food, and they're able to feed themselves. So all of these American farmers who converted to selling wheat, because for a while, if for like 7, 8 years, it was high price. Now, what happens? No one's buying it because they can now grow it themselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, even today in 2020, when you are a farmer, so say McCray and I, my husband and I, decide we're going to be farmers. We won't. This was not built for farming, okay? You essentially take a gamble on your crops. You go to the bank and say, hi, I need a loan for $50,000. And they're like, why? I'm going to grow soybeans. And they're like, good luck with that. So we get our loan for $50,000, and McCray and I convert all of this acreage into a soybean farm. We spend all of that money on tools, planting, harvesters, all the other crap you need. Then we wait and pray for rain, okay? And then in the fall, when we're harvesting our soybeans, then we can see that we made $80,000 that year. So what do I do with $80,000? 50 of that I pay to that. Then the 30 of that I have for profits, yes? That has to pay for food costs, living expenses, all the other costs you have in your daily life, not just from the bank. So the next year, do you think I have tons of money left over? No, so I have to take maybe $45,000 out from the bank, and I invest that into my field. What happens if I don't make that much money for my soybeans? You're in debt. And if you can't pay your debts, you lose your farm. If I don't pay my mortgage for a year and a half, they will kick me out of my house. Same with you. If your parents don't pay their mortgage, they will be kicked out of their house. So all of a sudden, farmers are losing their jobs in 1925. Unemployment rates start going up because of this. There's also another major other concern. Not only is unemployment rate starting to go up, we now have exhaustion of our soil in what we call the Dust Bowl. You better pick that head up. If I'm doing this, you're definitely paying attention. Wheat is going to exhaust the soil. Wheat takes lots and lots of nutrients. So tomatoes put actually some nutrients into the soil. Wheat takes so much because it's such a nutrient-rich food. Okay? So to grow wheat, you're supposed to grow it, then leave it. What is it called when you leave a field unplanted?
Crop rotation.
No. That's a new fallow. You leave it fallow. Or you plant another crop in it that puts nutrients in the ground. So you grow wheat one year and you put potatoes in the ground, and potatoes put more nutrients in the ground. But you would never go back to back to back wheat because it dries up the soil. Have you ever had really good soil in your hand, bought potting mix? You grab potting mix, like the bags of stuff you buy from Home Depot, and you stick your hands into it, and it's like you're covered in mud. Can we agree? Like it's super wet, and you're just completely disgusting. Okay, that is really nutrient-rich soil. It's heavy and it's dense. When it dries up, that's what we have outside my door, which is what you people track in my house. I refer to this place as my house. That's so sad. You people track it into my classroom all the time. That really fine molecules. When it gets windy outside and you get like sand and stuff in your eye, it's not sand. It's soil. Can you grow anything in that? No, look at the grass out there. Is that what they're thriving? No. Okay? That's the Dust Bowl. It is going to destroy the American agriculture for about 20 plus years. In the Midwest, it's still yet to fully recover. Why did they destroy all the soil? Yeah, it was greed. And why is it greed? Because they had an opportunity to make money. So they did, and they destroyed the topsoil, and it's yet to recover. It's pretty crazy. All right, here we go. Your next heading is economic collapse. You've all seen the pictures of like the mom and the kid, right? Yeah, covered in dirt. You've never seen it? It's like the most famous American icon. You've ever seen it? Yeah, now you've seen it. The mom, she's sitting there like this, and the kids are like buried into her, and she just looks sad. I don't know what it's called. Dust Bowl. Yeah, and she's just like sad and broken. And her kids are like embarrassed and all that shit. Like it's like an iconic American photo. Anyway, moving forward. Alright, you need to know economic collapse. You need to know that in the US, the economic collapse in the United States begins October 24th, 1929. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a non-negotiable date. You absolutely need to know it. So in the United States, economic collapse officially occurs October 24th, 1929. It's about 2 years after Europe. Okay, so it happens on what we call Black Thursday, not Black Friday. I'm going to tell you right now, if your girl's going to say Black Friday, it's wrong. Okay, Black Friday is Thanksgiving shopping day. Okay, first day of like Christmas shopping. Black Friday is wrong. It's actually called Black Thursday. So if I say Black Friday, please correct me because it's not Black Friday. Because that's a consumer thing from post-World War II. We're talking about Black Thursday, which is like, people killed themselves. I'm not so happy. No? Yes? Hello?
How is it like one day specifically?
So it's one thing specifically because we're going to have a run on the bank. Let me get to this and we'll maybe get even more. Because this is first period. This is not, you guys are like neck and neck with first period. Hot damn! People are taking this recording thing serious. Sixth period. Here we go. So Black Thursday is when the stock market crashes. Okay, that is the official start of the economic downturn. Before then, America was shaky, but we weren't collapsed yet like everyone else, but everyone knew it was coming, and it officially happened on October 29, 1929. So, what triggers it? Okay, it triggers what we call a run on the banks. And this is like a huge threat. Even every day, it is a threat. In 2008, when the economy tanked, right as I was in college, getting my life together. The economy tanked and had a devastating effect. So my generation's the last one. We almost had a run on the banks as well in 2008, which is scary and terrifying. We'll get there hopefully tomorrow after the fast back day. So yeah, it's at least interesting. Would you agree?
Yeah.
This is way cooler than like, you
This
know.
is cool.
I always hate on the group stuff, but I do like
Move on.
it. Ooh, God, there you go, man.
Move on, Empire.
My man, Akbar.
Sikhism.
Have a great day, Miss Bennett.
You too, darling.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I don't know why. I forgot for a while, but I do need to make up the test that I missed. It wasn't the last test, it was the one before that.
So when are you gonna do it, man? That's on you.
When can I?
You do it any morning before school, during your lunch. What lunch are you?
4.
Yeah, you can come any day during lunch, man.